Good day, ladies and gentlemen. A few days ago, the Federal Postal Court and its members had a conversation about the world economy and world affairs. On the back of that, this is the reason why for this broadcast. It was, with further investigation, found that the banks will announce very quickly that they will fail. The announcement, of course, will be in rather tricky or covert language. That is one. The second is that the price of everyday living globally will go up by hundreds of percent. It is already, with some elements like gas, electricity and fuel prices, several hundred. In this country, the UK as it were, it stands at 50% more than it was just a few months ago. So if it was £1 for a litre, it is now standing at £1.52, more than a 50% hike. What does this mean? Without me sounding alarmist, these are the very strong possibilities that will take place. If this is the case, this will also happen with the stock market, and you've got to listen very carefully. The place of the epicenter, as it were, will be the United States, not United States of America. That is an entirely different world. Irrespective of that, the normal people that don't know the difference between United States of America and United States, or the people that do not understand what an Englishman is, as to opposed to a British person, as to opposed to you also as a United Kingdom person. I am letting everybody on this planet know that the supply chains are also going to be, shall we say, the brakes are going to be put onto it. What they call a supply chain brake. I do not mean a brake as in a broken chain, as in brakes as somebody has applied the brakes. When the stock market crashes in the US, what will happen? It will ricochet all over the world. Ricochet. This is what the case has been historically. As I have revealed to you on a previous broadcast, that the Securities and Exchange Commission all around the world are exchanging your securities. The word commission means that they've been put in place, commissioned like a commissioned officer, which means they've been bought in by people to administer the securities that you created and generated, which they hid from you for nearly over 100 years, programming people's minds through stupidification to rob you of your own sweat equity. And they have wasted so much of it deliberately because they want to make you the debtor. What does this mean, what I am saying to you? The crash is imminent, ladies and gentlemen. It is imminent. This includes the stock market, the banks, the supply chain. This also includes your food supply. This also includes car parts, timber, building material, etc. Ask any person, ask any man and woman on the streets about it. What I am doing, and this is what I'm preparing my studentships globally as well, is I will have sufficient amount of cash to at least see me through for 90 days, because that's how long these things will last, and we don't know exactly when it will start. Okay? You need enough cash to see you through for everyday food supply, paying off bills and so on and so forth for the next 90 days. Also calculate in if it happens like 2-3 weeks before Christmas. Do calculate it in. Okay? That is one. Myself, I always make sure that I have sufficient amount of gold, silver, and most importantly, cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrencies is the people's currency gifted to you by the Titans, and I will come on to this later, as to opposed to the Olympians, the documents of which and evidence of which you can find on my website. Most of my students have already done so, and they have studied the website thoroughly. I am preparing those few percentage that have not heard this message. It is not a question of whether the stock market will crash, because most of it is phantom corporations. It's a question of when. The banks have traded so much of your own securities away that they don't have anything else left. And because of this, they're trying to get the general public into more and more debt, i.e. through price hikes and so on and so forth, so they can turn you into the debtor. Do remember, it is the banks that are the debtors, not you. You are the creditor. The banks owe you a lot. So does the corporate governments. They owe you everything. Do you understand what I'm saying? The corporate governments around the world, that's what they are all corporate, are the debtors to the people. And the enemy of the debtor is the creditor. This is why the vaccine programs are being taken so, shall we say, draconically, if there is such a word. I'm not quite sure if there is such a word. But what that means is that the more creditors that they kill off, the less debt they have to pay back. Keep those things in mind. It comes under democide, death by your own government, as it were, because you are, as it were, the enemy, because they owe you everything. And the few individuals that set up these dummy governments, not corporations, dummy governments, that's what Washington, D.C. is, and the presidents, that they are dummy. They are dummy corporations, dummy presidents, performing dummified things on the internet, on mass media, to waste your time thinking that they have any real power. I'm going to repeat myself again. The purpose of this broadcast, the purpose of it is to let you know the Federal Postal Court and its members, through discussion and investigation, have come to the real conclusion, the real possibility that within the next 90 days or so, there is going to be some sort of a crash. Stock market, that is inevitable. Banks, that is inevitable. What they are going to do to protect themselves is the nature of this broadcast, the concern of it. What that means is I have done my best to warn you, caution you as to how deadly these banks are to your biology, to your life, and how deadly through democide these governments are to the people, to the flesh and blood of men and women. And myself, I'm going to make sure that I have sufficient amount of cash for 3 months to see me through if such a thing happens. In this country, most people are not fully aware of it, but the people in the Americas, a large percentage, are fully aware of it. The most deadliest thing on this planet is democide, which is death by your own government. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Who is the creditor? Who is the debtor? I know that they convince people that you are the debtor. You are not the debtor. They are. So please make sure that you have sufficient amount of these cryptocurrencies as well in order to be able to trade offline offline. Do not think that the internet can be switched off. There are other types of internet. One of the judges also educated us about long-fi. That long-fi is decentralized and nobody can switch that off. It is all controlled by the individuals that have access to it. And long-fi is a far more effective system than the shortwave internet that you know, i.e. mobile phones, etc. Full stop on that. The possibility of this crash, I am trying to, shall we say, stave off by making it public. Because when you expose something, the banks and the corporate governments that work and were set up by a small group of privateers, which we know as the private banks, that's who all the senators, the governors, the mayors, all of these people work for. They can easily turn against the people in desperate fear of the people having this knowledge. Me preparing the general public for it on a global scale can stave it off and make that transition of their failure inevitable, but without harming people. We know that I know, and a business that is ineffective by its very nature will go bankrupt. We know that the corporate governments for over 100 years has become is and was the most pernicious as well as the most ineffective for the people, but highly beneficial for a small group of people that you now know the names of, because these documents, like the Committee of 300, if you look up on Wikipedia of this pair of these people, you'll call it a conspiracy theory. 2 months ago, it was not a conspiracy theory. These names, ladies and gentlemen, are not conspiracies. Okay? This is a UN document from their library. The means of the securities exchange, how they exchange your security, you can find in documents like this on my website, i.e. Lost Souls Baptized at Sea. They are not only baptized people, but they also generate securities of it and then trade that security that you created and them being the debtor on the open stock market, and then make sure that they lose it so you pay for it by swapping you around as the creditor, as the debtor. They are the criminals, but they get you to believe that it is you that is competent. That is the mind of these people. You understand how the Securities and Exchange Commission works. It is up to you to pick up your pen. Let me get any pen except a red, okay? Pick up your pen and write a letter to the Securities Commission saying that you want your security back. Put your autograph, thumbprint, send it by Richard Post, irrespective of which country you are. That will set the pace that you, the general public, already know how the system works. That is that. You know that Donald Trump did not resign, nor did he hand over the reins to another actor called Joe Biden. Both of them are actors. In doing so, they portray Joe Biden as being incompetent. He is only acting incompetent. You don't know who that man is. You don't even know if that's a man with a mask. They've been playing these games for a very long time. He will, when the banks begin to fail and the stock market begins to fail, collapse, it's imminent. That's the nature of this broadcast, will be presented as your savior, as it were. This is why they tried to impeach President Donald Trump. Well, I thought President Donald Trump left, but they're impeaching President Donald Trump. They're letting you know he is still the president of the acting president, acting CEO. He's an actor for that group. Irrespective of whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump, they're playing puppet games with you to give you a savior, because human beings are always asking for saviors, whether that'll be Jesus on a cross, or whether that'll be a prophet out of the Old Testament, or an scapegoat, or be it an alien invasion, as if people from outer space is somehow going to rescue you. It is time to mature out of this kind of nonsense, because by examining these works, these documents that are on my website, that offer 100% proof your gods are nothing more than men and women pretending to be gods with bank accounts. That's what that's about. It's a banking ploy. You know that. You already know that. Now, I heard a comedian, and I'm sorry I've forgotten the name of the comedian, but I always like to credit names, but I've forgotten who it was. I think it's Dave Chappell, or Dave Chappell or something, a US comedian. I heard him say, as a comic sketch line, that stupid people make up words to win an argument. That is what the mass media is doing with sex changes, with transgender. They make up words and they get human beings to fight over that word. Stupid people make up words. They make up words to win arguments or waste people's time. If you want to create a new post in a university for a professor, you just make up a word, and then you make that man or woman as the professor of that word, like transgender. We nowadays, less than 20 years ago, it was just men and women dressed up as men or women. That's their business. Whether it's a sex change, because these are highly motivated words, highly motive words. They know that they can waste your time and not see the bigger picture. That is, prepare the American people and then the world for them to lose their sweat equity, their commercial energy, which is called your life force. Now, because of the research and the research that was gifted to us through the Federal Postal Court Judge Hugh, spelt with a H, in Australia, a great big landmark piece of knowledge came into existence. I was the first one to expose that the Olympians are for real, as opposed to mythological. And the mechanisms of that we don't need to discuss, but in doing so, I set a precedent. Full stop. But Hugh and his students and the contributors, which I'm sorry that I can't name because I forgot to pick up their names. I would love to credit them. It's not my work. It's somebody else's. And I always like to credit people for their work. What Federal Postal Court Judge Hugh had done, he had proven by track record and on paper the so-called mythological kingdom. I don't call it a kingdom, let's call it something else. The existence of Terra Australis. What that means is that there was a so-called empire, and I cannot find a better word for it. But there was a group of people previous to the Olympians doing what they did with the lies and the pernicious taking of human lives, the warfare, the investment in sickness, the investment in poisoning one's language, the investment in destroying churches, faith and etc. all of which you already know because you've been witness to, i.e. Tony Blair, Bush, who are perpetrators of these things. Previous to that, there was the civilization called the I keep mispronouncing it. I do beg your pardon. The world previous to this, and it appears it was less than 120 years ago, was run by another group of men and women that we have now come to understand as being Titans. The existence of Tartara, the Tartarians, is no longer theoretical. We have already proven on paper, on evidence, that such a civilization did exist. And that civilization existed all over the world, including Africa. And these civilizations are now the lands, and everything is going back to them. The corporations or the Olympians, it's in their best interest to make sure that human beings don't understand that they were the creditors. This is what they're frightened of when they fully have handed back all those things that belong to you, is that they will make them seem, and on paper and in the bank account, it will make them featherless canaries. That's what they are. They are featherless canaries. And that is a petrifying state for them to be in, because the end result of lying, cheating, murdering, raping, doing everything that you can possibly do to harm and lie and sit back and live on the misery that they created, is that you lose your feathers and you are exposed for what you are, a featherless canary, a featherless budgerigard, opened to the environment. Death is inevitable for these people, because the end result of so many lies is that you die of it. Me saying this, please do not take it as what is known as a compensation theory. That means that you don't have to do anything if all of these people are going to die. This is the lazy man's attitude. This is why masculinity was looked down upon for so many decades, to rob you of your masculinity, because the nature of masculinity is to protect the family and the community. That is why they tried to demasculinize you. Okay? Full stop. It is in your interest to study the updates on my website. And it is in your interest to have sufficient amount of cash to last you 90 days at a time. So put away that much amount of money you need for 90 days and keep topping it up so you're always 90 days. Have sufficient amount of other currencies, what they call true money, like gold, silver, and copper. Silver still is the currency that also backs up the US dollar, which is the dominant currency. And listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. The US currency, as well as being a fiat-based currency, is also a currency backed up by oil. In other words, it's backed up by mineral. When that mineral oil becomes obsolete, which is what is happening now, more and more people are wanting less and less of petroleum energy, petroleum fertilizers, petroleum jelly. And the list, of course, goes on. Because of this, the mineral that backs up the US dollar is also depleting within the US dollar, not the oil itself, but the value of the currency is going down because of the mineral backing up. So they are using the Securities and Exchange Commission to trade more and more and lose more and more of your securities, because they convince the general public that you are the debtor and they are the creditors. No, they are the debtors and you are the creditor. In other words, it is you that gave them the credit, which they've completely screwed up, and they need to give it back to you. Now, this sort of information that I am saying to you is like silent weapons for quiet wars. It's beautifully listed in here. And what's scary is these silent weapons for quiet wars. Remember, it's a quiet war, and they're using silent weapons. Every single box on this has been ticked off. Every single box. This was also wonderfully researched and depleted by Jack Otto in World War III. All of these things you can find on my website. And the bureaucracies that they use in order to make these reaping take place is, of course, through the courts. And you can see that all the courts really are just federal courts, and how much money these people actually make. And this document was given to me by a student of mine about 3-4 years ago. Okay, these are not theoretical premises, ladies and gentlemen. These are all factual things. When you have so many, when you have so many facts pointing directly to the conclusion of inevitable collapse, you can't ignore it. And as a plenipotentiary-judge, I am sharing that with you. Okay? Please do not be fooled. Do not allow yourself to be fooled by people that make up words and create arguments to distract you of what is about to happen. Okay? I think I have explained to you the nature of Tartaria, that it's no longer theoretical. I personally don't think I did a very good job of explaining it. I was looking for words because I only had about half an hour to prepare for this. I thought I'd better share this information just in case my student base around the world get caught out. So thanks to you, his students, and other people that contributed to this knowledge, the existence of the Titans through what is known as the civilization of Tartarians is no longer a theory. It is a proven fact. Just as it was a proven fact that the Olympians are not mythological, but actually are for real. Okay? And on Wikipedia, it will now list it as a conspiracy. Well, in that case, this document with all of their autographs and thumbprints must be a conspiracy, and the UN, where this document comes from, must also be conspiring. That is the level of oxymorons that they speak of. Okay? Now, the federal judge, Postal Court Judge Hugh, on our last meeting pointed out something that I should share in regards to what oxymorons are like in real example. So when they say, that unvaccinated people are threatening vaccinated people, that's an oxymoron, because they're quite good at twisting words. It is the job, as he pointed out, it is the job, as his students pointed out, that it is the job of the vaccine to protect the people that are vaccinated. It is not the job of the unvaccinated people to be protecting the vaccinated people. How simple is that? But as long as they move you away from that simplicity and get you arguing about stupid things, thereby making you an oxymoron. An oxymoron means that to make you a moronic, something that cancels each other out so simplistically that you're arguing over 2 times 2 equals whatever it does. Because in their world, it equals whatever they want it to be. Okay? So do not fall for the traps of these things. These people, these Olympians, these gods, as it were, okay, are after one and one thing only. They're after your life, your energy. Because these gods and these prophets and all of these people, they're parasites. The ones that you have profited from, well, you can call them your prophet, and I shall leave it to you. In passe, prophet means no fit. In other words, they're not fit, and it's like a glove. It will not fit. PRO means no, as in provisional license. Remove the PRO, and what are you left with? You're left with a license. Okay? So that's how these things work. I am unable to improve upon what I have said. Because of this, listen to everything that I have said, if need be several times, so you are prepared for the inevitability that the principalities of your world are going to die. And the illusion that they created for the general public will die as well, because you are now living in the world of the Titans. You are living in the world of Tartaria, which is no longer theoretical. On that, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for listening to me. Please share this video, because there is a huge amount of shadow banning taking place on my channel. By sharing this video, you bypass their filtering mechanism. It's as simple as that. And I think you know that just about everybody on this planet needs to know that there are such documents and such events are inevitable. Thank you. Bye-bye now.